Hello students, this is Dr. Faizan Mirza. We are discussing homeostasis in plants. Plants being a multicellular organism, they are also carrying out homeostasis, and the homeostasis that is most important for plants is conserving water. And this is maintained by opening and closure of stomata. We have already seen that the movement of water in xylem vessels up all along the stems is all dependent on how much water is being lost in transpiration, which exerts the transpiration pull. So, the opening and closure of the stomata is of immense importance here. What is a stomata? Stomata is an aperture, an opening present between the guard cells. And these guard cells allow this opening allows exchange of gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide. And water vapors also get lost because this passageway is opened. So stomatals can be present on the leaves, either on the lower epidermis mostly, but they can be present on the upper epidermis as well. They are present in flower, they are present in green stems as well. So this is how the stomatal aperture looks like, and these are the cells that make up the guard cells. On the cell wall of the guard cells, there are bands of cellulose fiber. Now, what's important is the shape of this individual guard cell. This is one guard cell. This is the other guard cell. So together they make up a pair. This opening is called as the stomatal aperture, whose diameter can change, allowing exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, and water vapor can also get lost from here depending on the external conditions. The band of cellulose microfibrils are arranged radially around these cells. So if the cell was supposed to expand, these bands will not allow the cell to increase in its width. We know that transpiration is an inevitable consequence of gaseous exchange from the stomata, because the plant was actually just exchanging gases, but water also went out as water vapors. But uncontrolled transpiration could cause the plant to wilt, to get dehydrated altogether. So the aperture narrows in times of water stress. Guard cells, the shape is elliptical, and elliptical shape means they are kidney shaped cells, and they are very small but highly active. They have a highly active metabolism. They lack plasmodesmata, and the cells facing the aperture, the cell wall facing the aperture, is thicker than the cell wall facing the epidermal cells. So this region is thicker, this region of cell wall is not that thick. And band of cellulose microfibrils are arranged around these cells that will not allow this cell to increase in its width. So it restricts the extension of cell along its diameter, where the cell can increase in its length only. Being elliptical, you know the shape, being the cell wall, this being less elastic, this being more elastic. So when the cells expand, it expands radially. It expands longitudinally. It can't expand radially because of these bands. And this wall being very thick, it doesn't stretch much, but this wall stretches more than this. As a result, the cell walls being stretched, these cell walls stretching differently, ends up opening the aperture here. This is how the stomata is opened. On this is the pair of guard cells. Actually, this situation never comes. A stomata can never be closed altogether. It will either be narrowed, the opening will be narrowed, or the opening will be wide opened. It can never be shut altogether, because it would otherwise, like, you just shut your nose and you don't breathe, and obviously if gas exchange cannot occur, you know what's going to happen next. So yeah, coming back, this region is the cell membrane of the guard cell. I'm just discussing what's happening on this side. Obviously the other side will also have the same process going on. So let's take an example here. Let's go into the details. This protein here on the cell membrane is actually a proton pump. It pushes out H plus ions in the presence of light energy. So light energy is mandatory for this process. When H plus goes out of the cells by active transport, this is H plus pump using the energy from ATP to push out the H plus ions. This in turn allow potassium ions and nitrate ions to enter into the cells. The entry also promotes entry of chloride ions. Now when these ions accumulate in the cell, this lowers the water potential of the cell, and water starts to be pulled inside the cell from the surrounding epidermal cells. When water comes, starch is converted to malate, and malate is also negative, so again it reduces the water, malate also reduces the water potential to be more negative, so more water comes in. So as the water just keep on increasing, water moves from the epidermal cell by osmosis into the guard cells, and the guard cells end up expanding. We know that their cell, the microfibrils are arranged radially, so the cell cannot expand in its width. The cell just expand along its length. So guard cells, they become turgid, they expand lengthwise, not widthwise, and the cell walls being differently thickened. The cell wall facing the aperture is thicker, the cell wall facing the epidermal cells is thinner. So the cells expand in this way linearly, whereas where this cell wall which is on the outer edge, it stretches more, and the cell wall facing the aperture, it stretches less, and the stomata opens or its diameter increases. When the plant is in water stress, when the stomata needs to close down, for example in darkness, for example if there is a high carbon dioxide concentration, there is space in the leaf, or if there is low humidity, if there is high temperature, if the plant is facing water stress, for example when the supply of water from its roots is limited, or there are high rates of transpiration, so the stomata must close. In this, how this comes about? It comes about using the hormone called abscisic acid. Abscisic acid is abbreviated as ABA. ABA is a hormone synthesized by plant cells which have chloroplasts or amyloplasts. We know what chloroplasts are. Amyloplasts are just those organelles that can store amylose or starch. So every plant cell that is having either of these will end up synthesizing abscisic acid. Abscisic acid is released when the plant is facing water stress. Now what ABA will do? ABA is going to target that H plus pump in the cell membrane, and it will prevent the active transport of that H plus from this pump. So H plus, the proton pump gets inhibited, and H plus exit just cease or stops. It further stimulates the opening of calcium channels in the membrane. This calcium channels, these are present in the cell membrane of the plant cell, the guard cell, as well as on the tonoplast of the vacuole. The calcium ion then enters into the cytoplasm. It works like a second messenger. It acts as a second messenger, in fact. The second messenger calcium ions, they stimulate the channels to open up and allow negative ions as well as potassium ions to move out of the cell. Negative ions such as chloride ion and the nitrate ion which entered initially, they are going to go out now. When they go out, they reduce the water potential in the surrounding cells, so water moves out of these cells and go out of the guard cells by osmosis. The guard cells become flaccid, and the stomata just closes, or you can say its diameter narrows. So this is how the plant homeostasis works. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much.